All right, welcome to Monday Bible Study. For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. That begins with a parenthesis. Where does it end? All the way down there. Wow. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these have not the law, are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts. That's the key. It's a circumcision of the hearts. Their conscience also bearing witness. Well, because that's where God gets you. He calls you at your conscience, at your heart. You don't hear voices. I got the call. I heard it loud and clear in my gut, in my conscience, in my subconscious. And their thoughts, the meanwhile, accusing or else excusing one another. In the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ, according to my gospel. Behold, thou art called a Jew, and restest in the law, and maketh thy boast of God, and knowest his will, and approvest the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law, and art confident of thou thyself art a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of the babes, which has the form of knowledge and of truth in the law. Thou, therefore, which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself. Thou that preachest a man should not steal, dost thou steal? Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege? Let's read it in the New Living. It'd take me forever to try to decipher that. That was tough. I mean, you get the idea. They demonstrate that God's law is written in their hearts. Perfect. For their own conscience and their thoughts either accuse them or tell them they are doing right. Exactly. He will tell you when you're doing wrong, and you get that hopeful ping when you feel like you're doing right. And this is the message I proclaim, that the day is coming when God, through Jesus Christ, will judge everyone's secret life. Nothing secret about it, not to the Lord. Well, he ordained it for starters. All right. You call yourselves Jew. You who call yourselves Jews are relying on God's law, and you boast about your special relationship with him. Because why? Because, you keep the Torah and you don't eat shellfish and blah, 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 blah. You know what he wants. You know what is right because you have been taught his law. You are convinced that you are a guide for the blind and a light for the people who are in darkness. You think you can instruct the ignorant and teach children the ways of God, for you are certain that God's law gives you complete knowledge of the truth. Well, then, if you teach others, why don't you teach yourself? That Paul, he's a mess, isn't he? You tell others not to steal, but do you steal? You say it is wrong to commit adultery, but do you commit adultery? You condemn idolatry, but do you use items stolen from pagan temples? Womp womp. All right. Let's continue on with with Nebuchadnezzar's account of how the Lord called him to salvation. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was I think when we looked it up last time it met, he was kind of like astonished, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My Lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. Let's translate that. What Daniel is saying is, O king, your enemies are going to love what this dream is saying is going to be holden of you. What's coming your way, your enemies are going to hate it. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached into heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of heaven had their habitation. It is you, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. Now, the reason I told you all of this in advance was so that you could follow along, because look, the King James, the book of Daniel, and all that's complicated enough. And we're not watching these for drama. So I went ahead and told you so you can, completely follow along. But now, and for some of y'all, this is the second time we're going through this. And for y'all, I love you. Wow. And if it's the third time, forget about it. And whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one coming down from heaven and saying, hew down the tree and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass and the tender grass in the field, let it be wet with the dew of heaven. Let his portion be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. We gave that interpretation the other day. This is the interpretation, O king. This is the decree from the Most High, which is come upon my Lord the King. Colon. Get to the rest tomorrow. Love y'all. Ask questions anytime.